We are briefly going to interrupt the governor's news conference to bring you some other breaking news. The Big Ten has voted to cancel the fall football season.
That means the Buckeyes will not take the field in just a few weeks as they were planning to do.
And our sports director, Jared Smalley, is in the newsroom now. I know you've been following this very closely. What's the latest?
Obviously, this was a swiftly developing story over the past several days, and we saw momentum start to lean this direction for the Big Ten and perhaps even the Pac-12 as they continue their meetings here today. Among the Power 5 football conferences, it appeared all along that the Big Ten was the most likely group to go first in terms of making this significant decision of canceling fall sports. We want to be very careful about how we phrase that. It's not just canceling sports. They are giving the possibility, anyway, that they could try to play these sports in the spring, but they are postponing for the fall. That is all fall sports. And from the Big Ten, just moments ago, they've released a statement talking about why they reached this decision, and I can paraphrase it basically for you. It is quite simply due to health and safety concerns due to the ongoing pandemic. They reached the decision based on multiple factors, the conference says, relying on the medical advice and counsel of the Big Ten Task Force for Emerging Infectious Diseases and the Big Ten Sports Medicine Committee. There are a couple important notes in this, obviously. This is not just Ohio State football. This is one of the proud conferences in all of sports. And this is an incredible reaction to what all we have seen over the past few days. The growing momentum among players and coaches to try to save their season, going public with their demands to have at least an opportunity to start their season. Coach Ryan Day yesterday was very, very direct in saying that not only was he hopeful that the league could potentially push the season back, giving them more time to understand the effects of COVID-19 as students return to campuses across the country. That obviously did not happen. And so this now creates, Colleen and Brad, a very interesting situation. Yesterday, Ryan Day went on record as saying that if this did in fact happen, Ohio State would explore all their options. And all those options means maybe they play elsewhere. Nebraska head coach Scott Frost said the same thing. So that is now a part of the discussion here. And obviously, that's going to be a logistical nightmare, but it is a part of the discussion anyway, stemming from what is a massive decision now, a fall in Columbus, Ohio, without Ohio State football. That's something that's hard to fathom.
Yeah, Jared, there aren't a whole lot of details out there right now, but I know in the president's talking about this, and you and I have spoken about this as well. It's not just, well, standard health. We're talking about the heart condition now, that there are more worries in the medical studies about athletes dealing with COVID and the heart. Do you know anything more about that?
Yeah, it's been one of the biggest concerns that you've seen publicly over the past few weeks, that folks who work in the medical community, who work specifically with the conferences in a medical advisory role, have been talking about the long-term effects of cardiomyopathy and other issues related to COVID-19 that are not just the basic symptoms of having COVID-19. There are long-term health effects that, quite simply, we don't understand yet. None of us do, not even the medical community. And so the science is simply incomplete on that subject right now. There is growing concern that that could be something that would affect young people, in particular young athletes, if they were to get the virus. So that obviously has played a significant role in the decision-making here, erring on the side of caution. What will be interesting to follow, as I said a moment ago, the Pac-12, their leadership is expected to meet today and perhaps even have a decision today on what they're planning to do this fall. The eye will then turn to the SEC and the ACC and the Big 12, which seem very confident that they can play a football season. But with a domino the size of the Big Ten falling, that's going to put a lot of pressure on those conferences who seem very sure in their planning. So this may not be the end of this when it comes to major college football. It might just be the beginning of the end.
You know, Jared, I was just going to ask you that. The Big Ten is the Big Ten. So now that they have made this announcement, isn't it more likely that these other conferences will look at them and say, we might look pretty bad if we don't follow suit?
Well, that's a good point, because it's not just a health and safety decision. Obviously, that's first and foremost what the leagues are citing as their decision-making process here. But it is bigger than that. It's a public relations issue as well, when you consider the optics, the public perception of, this country, this conference, for example, might be playing fast and loose with the health and safety of the student athletes, while this other conference is erring on the side of caution and protecting them. That doesn't look very good from a public relations standpoint. So I would expect in the coming hours and days, that's going to be something to keep a very close eye on.
All right, and we know you will be following that, and of course we're going to have reaction throughout the day because this is a domino in a lot of directions.
Was just about to say that. The dominoes will fall in this, and even if you have Ryan Day and Scott Frost at other schools saying, we'll play anybody anywhere, how many schools are left to play at this point when you say, all right, we need to follow suit? And
maybe the spring sports will be the answer to all of this. Jared, we thank you, and of course we're going to keep you up to date. We're going to return you now to the governor's ongoing news conference as he talks about how Ohio schools and Ohio young people are impacted by coronavirus.